Beautiful MMA fans, the GOAT, the greatest MMA fighter of all time, the Eagle, 29-0, the former undisputed lightweight champion of the world, the man who barely lost a single round in his career, the man who's never been cut, never been dropped, never been bruised, the greatest, simply. The GOAT, Khabib Nurmagomedov, the man just came out. And the man broke down Ilia Topuria versus Arman Tsarukyan, and you can even say that he exposed Ilia Topuria's weaknesses and deficiencies when you talk about his overall MMA game. Let's talk about it. Khabib Nurmagomedov just came out and said that not only is Arman Tsarukyan the man to beat Ilia Topuria, but he said that I don't give Ilia Topuria a chance to beat Arman, and that if I had to rate this fight, when you talk about odds, I would put it 80-20 in Arman's favor. Now yes, I know what you're thinking. That is absolutely crazy. That sounds insane. But hear me out. You know, when you talk about Ilia Topuria as a fighter, listen, if you go back to my website, I am everything but a hater. I give everyone their credit and some more. And if you go back to my website, after Ilia Topuria's debut, even though he looked horrible in his debut versus Yusuf Zalal, I posted an article and I said that Ilia Topuria will be the next face of the sport. And what do you know now, 3.5, 4 years later? The man is top 3, one of the biggest names in the sport. Even though he bought 1 million followers on his fight week versus Oliveira, but we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. But the man, you can't deny the man's greatness. The man is unbelievable. When you talk about his boxing skills, when you talk about his IQ, when you talk about his patience, his composure, his cerebralness inside the octagon, you can't question it. But before we break down Ilia Topuria versus Arman Tsarukyan, a potential matchup, let's talk about this matchup that's just been rumored. I believe it's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. I believe it's next. Now, it's being rumored that it's going to happen in November. I'm not too sure if that's the case, even though Ilia's manager hinted that Ilia's going to fight Justin Gaethje in November at MSG. Now, I'm not too sure if it's going to happen in November, even though, like I said, Ilia's manager is hinting that this fight will happen in November. But no matter when it happens, let's talk about it. I believe that Justin Gaethje got everything it takes to beat Ilia Topuria for different reasons than Arman Tsarukyan. Let's break down Ilia Topuria's last few wins. I mean, he knocked out Charles Oliveira, I believe. You know, I hate to say this. I love Charles Oliveira. We all love Charles Oliveira. But the man's style, the man got no defense. And when you have no defense, and when you are such an aggressive fighter, when you fight someone like Ilia Topuria, who is a sharp shooter, who is an absolute puncher, a puncher of punchers, and punchers are born, ladies and gentlemen, and Ilia Topuria is definitely born with concussive knockout power. When you bring in Ilia's accuracy and knockout power and patience and base, the way that he stands, versus someone who's so eager and aggressive like Charles with zero defense and who's been knocked out many times before, that is a recipe for disaster. And that is why Ilia Topuria was nearly a 5-1 favorite. There's a reason why Ilia Topuria was 5-1 favorite. And even the fight before that, Max Holloway. The reason why I predicted that Max was going to get knocked out for the first time in his career in that fight. Yes, styles do make fights, but coming into the Topuria fight, Max Holloway was dropped for the first time in his career, the fight before that versus Justin Gaethje. Not just that, Max Holloway was weight drained because it was his first time making the 145-pound limit in 19 months. The last time he made it before that was versus Korean Zombie. How long ago was that? It was 18.5 months before he fought Ilia Topuria. And he went up and fought Justin Gaethje at lightweight, looked unbelievable, looked healthy on weigh-in day. But look at how the way that he looked versus Ilia Topuria on on weigh-in day. The man looked completely finished and shot and weight drained. So, in all honesty, Max Holloway was weight drained, and Max Holloway, when you talk about Max Holloway's career, the man has absorbed, before the Ilia fight, he absorbed more than 1,200 headshots. What does that tell you? That tells you that the man doesn't have the best defense when you talk about absorbing shots to the head, and most importantly, Max Holloway's chin has been cracked. You can only take so much, even though Max Holloway had the best chin ever, but you can only take so much before the mind is willing but the body will not follow. And Max's chin did not follow the memo that it's uncrackable, and it got cracked and he got knocked out and finished. And listen, much respect to Ilia Topuria, he knocked him out. But even the fight before that, when he knocked out Volkanovski, 3 months before that, Volkanovski got knocked out by Makhachev. And few months before that, Volkanovski took a lot of punishment versus Yair. And a few months before that, he lost versus Islam Makhachev in an all-out war and got dropped many times and got wobbled. So, yes, from the outside looking in, when you look at the resume of Ilia Topuria, it's unbelievable. And it's still unbelievable, and especially that he's undefeated. But there's always more than what meets the eye. Yes, the record is flashy. Yes, the resume is fancy. But when you actually break down his run, and when you break down his fighting style, the man is everything but unbeatable. No man is unbeatable. And when you talk about Ilia's weaknesses, I'll tell you exactly what his weaknesses are. The man never threw a single body kick or a single head kick in his UFC career, in his entire career. Why? There's a reason why. Because the man is limited. He's not a complete fighter. And the way that he stands, the way that he fights, you can tell that the man is obsessed with Canelo. You can tell that the man watches thousands of hours of Canelo tape. But the reason why Canelo can get away with his style is because there's no kicking involved in boxing. But Ilia, when you talk about his stance and when you talk about the way that he leans with his head, many times, and the way that he feints, the man's head, more times than not, crosses the range of his knee. So many times when Ilia is leaning, his head is so close to you that if you have long legs and if you are a good kicker, you can head kick him and knock him out. And that is why we see him get dropped before entering the UFC with a head kick, and that is why he got dropped versus Jai Herbert with a head kick and got wobbled with a step-in knee. Why? Because the man steps in with his head. So it is only a matter of time before he fights someone who's a good kicker who can set him up for the perfect knockout shot. And not just that. When you talk about Ilia Topuria's style, he throws everything with just like Canelo, he throws everything with bad intentions. He puts everything into every single shot. Look at the Oliveira fight. It only lasted a couple of minutes and the man was huffing and puffing 3 minutes in when he knocked out Oliveira. So this is another thing when you talk about Ilia Topuria. He puts so much into every single punch and every single shot that the man's gas tank, if you make him work, if you push him, if you press him, if you make him wrestle, if you make him scramble, if you make him think, if you keep feinting to the head, to the body. He only fought one person who kept feinting him. Max Holloway, actually. Max Holloway kept feinting him. He had Ilia Topuria's alarm system going like this. And this is the way to beat him, ladies and gentlemen. You gotta mix things up. You gotta mix your kicks with your wrestling. If you mix your wrestling with your kicks, you can beat this man. And two people can do that. Arman and Gaethje. Now the problem is this with Gaethje, his next opponent. Gaethje is way past his prime, and Gaethje doesn't have the same chin that he had before. If you bring the Gaethje who fought Barboza, who fought James Vick, after the Gaethje who suffered the 2 defeats, when he came back, a rejuvenated, a refined new Gaethje, that Gaethje, I believe, would annihilate Ilia Topuria. Why? Because Gaethje is an unbelievable kicker, and he's an unbelievable wrestler with an unbelievable chin back then, and who had the stamina to actually push the pace versus the heaviest hitters of all. So yes, Ilia is unbelievable. The man you can't question. He's unbelievable. He's unbelievable, and he deserves everything that he achieved and that he will still achieve in the sport. But all I'm saying is this: the man is far from unbeatable, and I completely agree with Khabib Nurmagomedov with everything that he said. Now, do I agree with the 80-20? That sounds a bit crazy. But nonetheless, listen, beautiful people, beautiful MMA fans, beautiful boxing fans, beautiful combat sports fans. All I'm saying is this. Justin Gaethje might just very well not just beat Ilia Topuria in November, but knock him out and take his undefeated record and take his belt and sail off into the sunset.